Shout out to audience member Everborn, supporter of the channel. He reached out to me this evening and said, dude, have you seen this? And I'm like, what is this? Apparently it's Matthew Ball's presentation, and Matthew Ball is the person who actually went ahead and put out this data set where we saw that the PC market is growing. I immediately clicked it and I was looking through and I saw a few things that caught my eye. This presentation is very eye-opening. Anybody who is looking at the gaming industry and wants to make sense of it, I suggest that you pour through all of this. I was going to go through the whole thing and then I saw it was 221 slides and I was like, okay, maybe I need to back away. There are a few things nonetheless that I want to go ahead and kind of show you guys. We look at the gaming scene and the games that are topping mobile and other platforms across the board. There are these live service free-to-play games or microtransactions, and there are a very small number of them. Like, they're actually quite few compared to everything. It also relegates the conversation to point to that data set that only about 43 or so games take up basically about 90% of spending, and this happened in 2023, right? I also have told y'all that for those who are talking about the console space, who have criticized Microsoft and Xbox for the way that they're doing their business, talking about them taking games to PlayStation, complaining about how they're not maintaining a purist exclusivist framework, right? That if Microsoft went with that perspective, they'd be broke in the next few years. In fact, I can still show you a comment from one of my longtime audience members who likes the Xbox ecosystem, but is not happy about the way that they're taking their games to other platforms. They said this just a few minutes ago. Unfortunately for me as an Xbox gamer, while I do love Game Pass, them giving most of their good games to PlayStation while gaining no games back is a massive, massive issue, which the only way to fix it is till those games actually become playable on Xbox, which could take years or may not at all. Till this is fixed, things will stay negative for millions of gamers like myself. It's like putting a hole in your boat, then bailing with buckets. Yeah, you can maybe slow things down, but even then start shuttering bigger buckets. But the hole is actually until the hole is actually fixed, and it's going to stay as a massive issue until there doesn't seem to be an urgency on Microsoft's part to fix the hole. They seem to be okay using buckets for years. This audience member of mine is basically saying that Xbox continuing to put their games on other platforms creates negativity. I have to tell you, the negativity is in the bank account if they don't move these games other places. You won't even have an Xbox. You're talking about a boat that's leaking. Talk about a sinking ship. Why? Because according to Matthew Ball's data sets, talking about the PC ecosystem's benefits and advantages and intensifying advantages, one point stands out that I have actually mentioned on the Video Game Fight School channel, which is point number 4 here. Hundreds of millions of children growing up on Roblox are unlikely to ask for a $500 console to play AAA games. If you're an Xbox fan or a PlayStation fan, there's a simple reason why both your platforms that you held dearly have all run to Steam, Epic Games, Good Old Games, Xbox, whatever the heck they were all doing exclusively on console, including their third-party providers that used to, basically shove games their way for money. They're all now seeing that this shift is now calling everybody's bluff. I've told you guys before that as an educator, when I'm actually working with my students, the very first week of school, we do some icebreakers, ask, questions. They ask questions about me as their instructor. And one of the things I ask them is where they play their video games. And this data set is absolutely spot on with the responses that I get and have been getting over many, many years. You have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, that this gaming industry has shifted so much that they can cite this as an intensifying PC advantage, why PC is getting growth. Existing variations of this particular advantage is that there's a much larger library on console, or all consoles combined with backward compatibility, more larger social graph, multitasking, lower entry price point than consoles, and higher top range of performance than high performance consoles. Some console players don't believe it. They think that somehow a console is a cheaper way to get into gaming. If you're not the Series S, I don't see any of you in that conversation, believe it or not. I know youngins, very young kids, who have convinced their parents that they do not want a console anymore, that they want a PC. Very surprising. Do you know why? When COVID hit, most of their instructions was moved to computers. So a lot of these kids now have a lot of comfort level with a computing device. What that means is, as they've now realized that they can basically zone out of school and class, and you know how kids are, they're very curious. They want to find out what's going on. They can game on these devices, going to websites that have names like science.com. Literally, these websites are actually designed to beat education filters that are set on school districts. Like, the school districts will spend all of this money trying to acquire a filter that's going to help their students to stay on task. And then somebody's going to make a website called mathassignments.com or math-assignments.com. And on that website is a whole bunch of web browser games. And the students are able to just basically walk through these filters, because the filters look at math and science and assignment as positive words, and they're accessing video games right there. If you're not following the gaming industry and you're worried about exclusivity, I have to say you are in slumber. There is no world where I don't see, and I've said this before, the pain is going to intensify so much in the gaming market that you will start seeing more PlayStation games. And I say more because I call MLB The Show, I call Lego Horizon Adventures, I call Death Stranding Part 1 PlayStation games that have gone to other consoles. You're going to see more go to other consoles. Let me show you another one. This is insane, guys. Greater competitive capability, mouse and keyboard, and ability to play nearly every early access game. Ability to play nearly every early access title in early access. Now, here's the crazy one. PlayStation now releases its, in quote, exclusives on PC, albeit in second window, as Xbox now does with all titles. Now, I will now correlate this with Shuhei Yoshida's statement that he just made on Kind of Funny Games, where Push Square was writing about this new trend of people criticizing, the remakes and remasters, right? I don't know if y'all have heard of this, but just recently, Shuhei Yoshida had this particular, interview with a gentleman from Kind of Funny Games, and he was spilling the beans about PlayStation. And they cite him as saying, if you want new first-party PlayStation 5 games, you should support remasters. In the same article, he said, making remasters, PC ports, and remakes can bring in enough revenue to keep investing in big titles, Yoshida says. Single-player games now cost so much, so they need additional income by doing remasters and porting to PC to be able to do that. To my audience member who said that them taking their games to other platforms and them not getting games in return is like a boat that's leaking water, I don't think you understand the financial ramifications of spending hundreds of millions of dollars and then your game tanks. You get to spend $50, $30, $10, $12, $20, $35 on a game, income that is mostly expendable in many cases. But when you think about the greater aspect in terms of investment, I don't think it's too far to say that there is a very healthy, goal for these companies to have their games leave exclusivity. If a PlayStation exec is telling you that the reason they're sending these games to PC is so that they can get more money, then you better hope that they're able to get more money from PC, of which they have already gone to PC, and they've already started to sow some really weird seeds, like PlayStation Plus requirement, which eats into their sales unless people have the time to want to mod it out, of which who's going to even take the time to want to bother when they can just buy a cheaper game in a saturated gaming market. So you roll with the times and you get the benefits that actually work for you and your wallet. That's the thing. You are a consumer in this, or a customer in this particular area, and you get to have the power to choose what you want to put your money in. Talking about exclusivity at this point and games that Sony is making is just FOMO. If you want to play PlayStation games, go play PlayStation games. That's just the reality. Go play it on PC. If you think that it needs to come to your Xbox, well, then wait for years or something. Because I think they're going to come. I mean, if they don't come, then they're a waste of an asset. And it's to PlayStation's own loss. But those who have told me that PC was just extra income, a side hustle, not even really relevant for PlayStation, I'm so glad that you've been exposed, because we all knew that that was not true of you all. What you were saying, you're just talking just because, you have to put PlayStation on this pedestal. When I've said before, there's the normal business that's just looking for cutthroat ways to make money. Simple. There's no shame in the game, which is actually quite impressive that they're actually competing and punching up against Microsoft. But y'all have made Xbox look like the underdog so much that it's like, someone's got to come in and actually tell you, like, hey, have y'all lost your minds? Like, where are you guys getting all this from? I wanted to go ahead and show you some of these highlights because I just think, they cannot be overstated. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. I'll keep going through the document. If I find some things that are interesting, I'll be happy to share. Peace out.